good? Welcome to the Post Op Podcast presented by Mallyway. It's your boy Malik. Thanks for tuning in. So it's been quite some time since my last pod. A lot's been going on in the NBA and in the world of sports. Basically, in the NBA, we obviously we had a tough week last week. The passing of Kobe Bryant was weighing heavily on a lot of players. And pretty much everybody around. I'm sure around your daily life, everybody's been talking about the passing of Kobe Bryant and also the 8 other passengers from that helicopter crash. So, like I said in my previous pod, rest in peace to one of the greatest legends, and thoughts and prayer to all the 9 victims. But since then we've seen a lot of tributes. The Lakers actually postponed the very next game after the tragedy. I believe the game was against the Clippers, and it was a debatable move. Some people thought, it's hard to get that trend going. Getting NBA schedules going is or getting NBA schedules to be modified is something that can be hard sometimes with stadium issues or arena issues. But luckily, it was against the Clippers. So the Clippers and the Lakers, for those of you who don't know, they play in the same building, the Staples Center. So it was a good thing that the very next game was against the Clippers. And obviously the Lakers is the team that Kobe Bryant played for. Very emotional. So they decided not to play that game. I believe that was on Monday. And they postponed it until their next game, which was a Friday night game at home against the Portland Trailblazers. And it was really touching. A lot of musical tributes and video tributes for Kobe. We had my boy Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth. They were singing "See You Again," that famous track from the Fast and Furious series when Paul Walker died. There was also Usher was there, singing "Amazing Grace." So I think the NBA did a good job. They really did a good job, paying respect to Kobe Bryant. Again, one of the greatest legends of all time in the game of basketball. Like everybody else, I used to, and I still yell out Kobe Bryant every time I throw a piece of paper into the can. So, that's what it is. But a lot more went on, obviously, since the last pad or my last podcast. We had the Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the San Francisco 49ers. That was one of the best Super Bowls I saw. Obviously, last year's Super Bowl was kind of a dud. So this year, it lived up to expectation. My boy, Patrick Mahomes stepped up. He didn't really have a good first half, but Patrick Mahomes, man, this guy, he keeps impressing me over and over again. What is he, like 24 years old? He was the youngest quarterback, the youngest player actually to win an MVP award last year. And then this year, the Kansas City Chiefs, they win in a dramatic fashion. Patrick Mahomes leads them with a comeback in the second half, and they win the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, the youngest quarterback to win Finals MVP. I mean, he's doing his thing. He's already on his way to greatness. There's guys out there like Chris Broussard who, called him Jordan-esque. So I don't know if that's pushing it, but Patrick Mahomes is doing his thing. I'm happy that he won. I had him on my fantasy team, so I had to root for my brother Patrick Mahomes. And they're doing great. They're doing great. I'm sure they're going to be favored next year. My squad, the Baltimore Ravens, they're pretty good too. So I'm hoping that Lamar Jackson, learns from that experience, from this year's experience. And I'm looking forward to seeing Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson duel it out in the future. But coming back to the NBA, a lot of storylines. Obviously, the All-Stars is coming up soon, trade deadline. So there's a lot to talk about. I'm going to try and fit everything in. Obviously, this game for the Raptors was game 51. The Pacers were in town, and it was an exciting game. I don't know if you guys saw the game. The Raptors won 119 to 118, and yeah, that game was crazy. So basically, the Raptors, started off on a good note. We all know about the Raptors' depth. They have, their bench is one of the best benches in the NBA. But not a lot of people have been watching this Indiana Pacers team. And I've been telling people Indiana's no joke. In the Eastern Conference, right now the Milwaukee Bucks are obviously number one, with Giannis Antetokounmpo is just tearing up the league. He won MVP last year, and he even elevated his level of play this year. But anything from the second spot down through the fifth spot, it's a toss up. A lot of people had Philly at the beginning of the year, but I really didn't have Philly. The Philadelphia 76ers, to me, they got worse this year when they lost Jimmy Butler and when they lost JJ Redick. To me, they got worse. I know they picked up Al Harford, but Al Harford, to me, he's pretty much near the end of his career. The Celtics pretty much didn't re-sign him because they knew that he probably doesn't have much left in the tank. And the 76ers picked him up simply for size. They needed another center, especially last year when Marc Gasol bullied them. The 76ers really picked up Al Harford for maturity and for size. But based on what I'm seeing, I wouldn't have picked the 76ers to be the second best team in the East. The Raptors right now were holding on to the second seed, which is great. I'm not too confident about how the Raptors are going to do in the playoffs, but so far so good. What I'm seeing from them, so far so good. But if I had to rank my top four Eastern Conference team based on who I think is going to perform in the clutch and in the playoffs, right now, for me, it's still Milwaukee number one, the Miami Heat number two, surprisingly. I would say the Indiana Pacers number three, and the Toronto Raptors number four, just based off late game scenario, game management, and who elevates their level of play when there's a lot of pressure on the line. So basically, we were facing the Pacers today. This game, again, like I said, it started off really good for the Raptors. The Raptors were winning in the first quarter 30-20. Pascal Siakam, he was struggling a little bit with his shooting. But the rest of the guys were moving along, in a nice flow. But then in the second quarter, a lot of what I was talking about was happening. So in the second quarter, the Raptors actually lost the second quarter 43-18. So that's not a good sign. That means that the Pacers pretty much turned on the clamps. I saw guys like Victor Oladipo, obviously their all-star. He didn't make the all-star team this year, but Victor Oladipo is the Pacers all-star player. Everybody knows that. He just came back from injury a couple games ago, so that's the only reason why he didn't make the all-star team. But now that he's back, he's ready to take this team, in the playoff and push them as far as he can. But Oladipo came out. He was playing well. We had Miles Turner on the Pacers, who was being a defensive beast as he usually is. His scoring is a little bit down because the Pacers are relying more on Domantas Sabonis. But basically, Miles Turner and Sabonis, that's a front court to watch out for. So Sabonis, he had 15 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists. So he literally had a triple-double. He was shooting 57% from the field tonight, one for two from the three. And Miles Turner basically, 6 points, 7 rebounds, but he had 2 blocks, and he was really active on the defensive end, especially on Pascal Siakam. And that was my concern, Pascal Siakam. People are realizing that he's our best player now. They're trying to double team him. They're doing whatever they can to stop him, and Siakam needs to adjust. And in this game, he did a good job adjusting. He was trusting his teammate. He wasn't forcing it. But at the same time, you could see that he was struggling a little bit in this game. And those are the type of games that I want to see Siakam flourish, because these are the playoff caliber teams we need to beat. And he was not bad. He had a decent game. He stepped up in the fourth quarter, which is what I like to see. So Siakam played 39 minutes. He ended up with 25 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. He shot 38%, so 7 for 18, and only 1 for 4, 25% from the 3. So again, it was a decent game. He did struggle. It was a good team that we were playing, but I did like that in the fourth quarter he picked up the defensive effort and he actually made some clutch free throws and some clutch baskets. Now, if we look at the rest of the team, um, just to throw it out there, the Pacers bench is they're a serious bench. Not a lot of people are talking about their bench because in the second quarter, a lot of the outscoring came when their bench was playing our bench. And I gotta say, guys like Aaron Holiday, Justin Holiday, I don't even know if they're related, but they got 2 Holiday brothers, and these guys literally killed us, especially in the second quarter. And then T.J. McConnell, if you guys know T.J. McConnell, last year he was in Philly. This guy's he's an energizer bunny. He comes through and he makes a lot of hustle plays. They have Doug McDermott. So the Pacers, they have a squad. They have a really nice squad. On the other hand, the Raptors, our bench, is nothing to play with too. But the issue is, as a team, we can't really rely on our bench to always save us. I always say your starters have to be your primary go-to guys. So if you have a starter on the team who's not performing up to par, that's a big issue. That's a big ass issue. And the reason I'm saying that is, unfortunately, my boy OG Anunoby, he's our starting small forward. So he's basically our 3-man. OG Anunoby, he played 27 minutes. I'm afraid to say it, OG, but this game was not the right game for you. This guy had a stat line of 0 points, 3 rebounds, 0 assists, and 0 field goal made. So that's, terrible for your starting small forward. I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, Sam Mitchell, who used to be the coach of the Toronto Raptors back in the day when we had Chris Bosh, he was talking about some of his guys. And Sam Mitchell, he was an average coach, but the one thing I love about Sam Mitchell was this guy would always give you the truth. He, especially when it came to calling out his team, he knew how to set fire under his teammate. So Sam Mitchell, if you don't remember back in the day, I don't even know which player he was talking about, but the Raptors obviously had a bad loss, and Sam Mitchell came out to the media, was telling the media that obviously we care. Sometimes the media they used to love harassing Sam Mitchell, but then Sam Mitchell just came out with one of the classiest, or one of the best lines that came out of Raptors history. He was just telling the media straight up that we can game plan all we want, but at the end of the day, we got guys putting up stat line that are like 0, 0, 0, 0. So basically, my boy OG Anunoby, in the words of Sam Mitchell,
we had guys that had a stat line 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
That's basically what happened, man. I mean, I know you had 3 rebounds, but at the end of the day, as our starting small forward, you can't really go out and have double digits or more, a lot of zeros on your stat line. So basically, OG Anunoby, I know he's got the size to pretty much be our defensive stopper, and I think he's going to be more valuable in the playoffs, because in the playoffs we're going to need somebody to spend the energy on defense, especially guarding the other team's best player. So, I'm not advocating, let's go trade for OG. Obviously, since it's trade deadline, a lot of chatter going around. But again, we got to find a way to get this guy involved. You can't really have, 1, 2 zeros on your stat line. That's not good. But with regards to the rest of the squad, Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry balled out. Kyle Lowry came to play, 32 points, 8 rebounds, 10 assists. He shot 57% from the field, 3 for 6 from 3. So, I respect Kyle Lowry. He did his thing tonight. And if If we look at the bench guys, Terrence Davis obviously doing his thing. So yeah, the team played well. The team played really well. The big surprise was Serge Ibaka. So if you watch the game, Serge Ibaka, not only this game, this whole season is pretty much has been the Serge Ibaka show. He looks rejuvenated. He basically, his 3 point field goal percentage seems to be going up. He's setting his feet a lot better. He's making better decision when he's getting the ball. But Serge Ibaka, he played amazing today, and he pretty much, not pretty much, he did win the game for us. He had 30 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 13 for 21. Think about that, game high 21 shot. He shot just as much as Kyle Lowry, and he shot a better percentage. He shot 61% from the field and 2 for 7 from three. Now 2 for 7 from three is not looking great, but one of these shots from three was the game winner at the end. And I think he even got fouled on that. So this was one of the best games I've seen, Serge Ibaka play, and I'm really proud that he stepped up because that allowed us, to keep the winning streak going. So right now the Raptors are on a 12-game winning streak, which is the highest winning streak they've ever had in franchise history. And yeah, so I'm proud of Serge Ibaka. Keep doing your thing. And yeah, for those of you who were throwing his name out in trade rumors, think about that again. But yeah, speaking of trade rumors, if we look at some of the moves that's been happening. So earlier on, by the way, the trade deadline is going to be tomorrow, February 6th, and it's the cutoff time is at 3 p.m. So if we look at some of the moves that has been going on, we know that the Utah Jazz got Jordan Clarkson. That was probably about a month ago. Um, they got, they sent Dante Exum and 2 second-round picks to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and that's been a good move for them. Jordan Clarkson, he's out there. He's a shoot first type of guard, but he's coming off the bench for the Jazz, and the Jazz just need to have good backup roles. So the Jazz did a good move there. It seems to help them, and they're moving up in the ranks. Another trade that happened was the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks, they've been really active during the trade deadline. They got back a couple weeks ago. They traded for Jeff Teague and Travion Graham, and they sent Alan Crabb to the Timberwolves. And they recently did another move where they got Dwayne Dedman and they sent Jabari Parker, who used to be he's a former number 2 overall pick, and Alex Len back to Sacramento. And they were also involved in a 4-way trade, which that was the big trade that happened yesterday. So the Houston Rockets got Robert Covington, Jordan Bell, second-round pick. Atlanta Hawks got Clint Capella and Nene. I didn't realize Nene was still in the league, but shout outs to Nene. The Timberwolves got Malik Beasley, Juan Hernangomez, Evan Turner, and Jared Vanderbilt, and a first-round pick. And the Denver Nuggets got Gerald Green, Keita Bates-Diop, Shabazz Napier, and Noah Vonleh, along with a 2020 first-round pick. So basically, a lot of these teams are just positioning themselves to make, to either make a push in the playoffs or to make another big move. So, for example, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they've been talking about getting D'Angelo Russell from Golden State. So pretty much the whole season, the Minnesota Timberwolves have been looking to stack up assets, and it seems like that's what they did with this trade. So the Minnesota Timberwolves seems to be ready to make another move. We'll see what happens. There's, the trade deadline is tomorrow, like I said, 3 p.m., February 6th. So, yeah, we'll see if any big names get shifted. The Raptors, on the other hand, I'll be surprised if the Raptors make a move. they're second in the East. Obviously, when you're a top dog, you make other people try to adjust to you, as opposed to you trying to, adjust to the rest of the league. Me personally, I think the Raptors should make a move. Um, we have two expiring contract, Ibaka and Gasol. Um, it's their last year on their deal, and to be honest, I don't really want to re-sign these guys, for high money. So if the Raptors can get, a player like Drew Holiday, I'd be willing to do get Drew Holiday from the New Orleans Pelicans, and in exchange, I would be willing to give them pretty much Marc Gasol and maybe OG Anunoby if it's necessary. The reason I say that is because Marc Gasol served his purpose. He came to Toronto last year. He's an older player. He helped us win a championship, and he helped us develop a ball sharing type of movement culture. And I can see that the Raptors are playing the right way now, even when he's outside, when he's not playing, when he's out the lineup. The Raptors are still, moving the ball fairly well, and they pretty much need to get some return because we don't want to spend another 2 to 3 years overpaying some of these older guys. And at the same time, if we get back Drew Holiday is a dominant guard. He's a proven guard in the NBA. He's proven in the past that he can shut down elite players, and at the same time, he can average 20 to 25 points a game. So if the Raptors are serious about winning now, I would say go for Drew Holiday. But hey, that's just my opinion. Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, these guys know what they're doing, and I got all the trust in them. But aside from that, some of the talk that's been going on, just to make it quick, the Masai Ujiri rumors. Obviously, they were talking about the New York Knicks, James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks, referring to wanting to get Masai Ujiri, try to lure him out of Toronto, get him to New York. New York is, one of the NBA's biggest markets, but their team is terrible. So it makes sense that they want to recruit Masai Ujiri, who's, he's done an amazing job with the Toronto Raptors. And I don't know how far that's going to go. James Dolan is known to, to open up the wallet if he really wants somebody. Masai Ujiri never indicated that he wanted to leave Toronto. But at the same time, New York is an attractive city. The team is not too attractive, but if Masai wants a new challenge, that would be an interesting scenario. Scenario. There's been some talks about how Masai Ujiri was pretty much lured, or not lured, but he was pretty much brought to Toronto in a similar fashion. Because when the Raptors first started off with Brian Colangelo, the Raptors were a dysfunctional franchise. And then, Masai Ujiri was working under Brian Colangelo. And as soon as Brian Colangelo was fired, he got the opportunity to do his thing. And, we all know what happened. The Raptors went on an amazing run, and we're still benefiting off that run. So, yeah, I feel like I'm losing my voice. But, again, it was a really, a week full of news. It was a newsworthy week in the NBA. Obviously, some tragic news, and obviously we're nearing the trade deadline. So it's been really interesting. Again, this was game 51 of the season for the Toronto Raptors. They won 119-118. For those of you who watch, it was an amazing game to watch. The Raptors were pretty much down the whole game. They were winning after the first, but then they were pretty much losing the entire game. They made a huge run, in part thanks to the bench. And then, Siakam, Lowry, and Ibaka, our veterans, stepped up, very late in the game. And, the Raptors, they're a well-coached team. Nick Nurse deserves a lot of votes for Coach of the Year. And at the same time, we got to keep building. But that's pretty much it, guys. I appreciate your time. Make sure to leave some comment. And until next time.